Hi friends, Wisdy here, welcome to a new Raid Shadow Legends video. Sorry it's been a while, I've been busy at work, but today I'll try to record a few videos for you before I get busy again. This video we're going to talk about one of the Titus teams that you can build if you went for the Titus Fusion to achieve those crazy numbers against Clan Boss. So if you have the needed champions but you were still struggling to make this team work till now, I'll talk about all the needed details, how you can build this team without fail. I'll also follow up hopefully in the coming couple of weeks with other Titus teams that I'm going to build on my main account. This is our giveaway account, and because I had loads of resources there and I needed to build the team here anyway, we'll show today's team on this account. As I was telling you earlier, this is our giveaway account, and I did go for Titus Fusion here on it just to give you this advantage. So I went for Fabian, I went for Titus. We'll talk about the stats and everything. Help me get to 3k subs so I can give this account away, but I'll give you more ways to win it. We'll also post more questions so you can gain more points towards winning it, and there will be other ways as well. But let's dive into today's team. So I'll show you the team. Do I have a key? Yeah, okay. So luckily, because I wasted so much, like so many keys, gems, and resources to make this team work. So we'll go through a couple of things while I'm explaining the team. First, I'm going to show you the AI setup of the team. I'll tell you which guidance did I follow to build this team, what variation you can have of speeds and builds, and then we'll do a quick key battle so that you see for yourself the damage that this team will do. Okay, so let's talk about speeds, because though there is a bit of flexibility around the speeds for this type of composition, but still it is a speed tune. What this means is that if your speeds are too fast or too slow for one of the champions and they fall out of sync with the rest of the team, that will cause this comp to fail. So first we have Apothecary in the lead at 268 speed. As I said, there is variation of the speeds. Use Deadwood Jedi's calculator or just test up and down, but make sure while watching the team run that everyone is in sync. Then we have Wixwell. Okay, before we move to this, of course we don't need the healing from Apothecary. We just want him to start with the A1 and then prioritize increasing the speed and boosting the turn meter of everyone so that they go at this 4-3 ratio and the buff extenders can keep extending the buffs. We'll talk specifically about what we need within the team when we start the run because it will take a while. Then we have Wixwell. So basically what you need as a must for this team is 2 champions for this specific comp. There are other comps we'll talk about in future videos. We'll need Wixwell and we'll need Titus. So if you don't have these 2 champions, you cannot make this comp work. So Wixwell is at 255. Of course, we are prioritizing his shield and intercept skill and then the shield extension. Then we go to Titus. We don't want Titus to do his A3 at all here, that buffing move. We just want him to do his A2, the big hit depending on the shield, as many times as possible. And of course we'll talk about gear sets also when I show you the champions, just for you to see what is needed to make this team work. Then we have Mikagi. It's almost a crime to use Mikagi just as a buff extender in this team comp, but I just had her maxed without any gear on this account, so that's why I'm just using her. Of course, Hellborn Sprite, Anchorite, or any other buff extension champions that can provide a couple of buffs will work exactly the same way in her place. We are prioritizing, of course, her buff extension, and then I just leave the ally attack on because it will do some more damage for us. Last one we have on the team is Lanakis, another ally attacker, but the main thing that we need from her as well is the buff extension. So these 2 spots for Mikagi and Lanakis, both of them are just for buff extension. They don't need to be ally attacks, they don't need to boost turn meter or do anything else. The only thing that you'll need other than extending the buffs is someone who would put a couple of buffs up, because how Wixwell shield growth work, it works based on the number of buffs on the team. So if you have someone even like Krisk, that's why he's so good there. The champions that's doing the buff extension, if they put 3 or 4 buffs even, that will help the team grow the shield more and more and increase the damage the team does. Mikagi is at 249 speed and Lanakis is at 216, the slowest on the team. Now let's go into the recorded run. I'll speed it up where we don't need to talk about stuff, but I wanted to show you this while talking about it before we start just doing the quick battle. That's exactly the same stats or a little bit less, because I think I glyphed some champions here. So let's start talking about what's happening here. Probably I'll just remove myself from the screen for a minute because I want you to see all the champions and what's happening while I'm explaining it. So let's start doing this. So you see here we started. Basically Wixwell will start Apothecary A1, Wixwell will start with his A3, and then what we need here is that basically we want Wixwell to start extending the shield wire as we see here, while the buff extenders will start extending the buffs. The number of turns for those buffs shouldn't be lower than 2 at any time, as we'll see here, and then we're just waiting for Wixwell to start doing his big hits. You'll see that Wixwell damage will ramp up really quickly, though this team will have some variation on affinity. That would be depending on Apothecary and the buff extenders, because if the clan boss hits harder, he's going to break the shield sooner and you might not be able to achieve the damage that you want from the team. The good thing is that you see he's already hitting for 370k here. Titus is void, so he won't get affected by the clan boss affinity, which is good in our case. And if you build the team tanky enough, I'll tell you exactly after this run finishes what tanky enough means. The affinity won't make much of a difference, and you will get that 1 key damage regardless of the clan boss affinity. As you can see here, I will speed it up till towards the end just for you to see the Titus big hits, but the main thing here is that as you can see, our buffs are safe, they keep increasing the turns, we are at 700k hits while we're still at turn 4, so I'll show you how much he ramps up, and then he'll start ramping down when the clan boss hits harder and the shield will start to get smaller. But what you want to see here, and that will work with how you build the champions, we'll talk about it when we get outside of this run, you want to see this shield on everyone, not only on Titus, growing all the time in the first turns of clan boss, because if the shield is not growing faster than the clan boss is hitting us harder and harder, this team comp won't work because the champions will die sooner than we achieve the number of damage that we want here. We have 2 champions on this team. We'll talk more about the gear when we get out of the run. Wixwell in Reflex and Titus in Merciless, because we want these 2 champions to use their key skills as often as we can. Putting the buff extenders in Merciless or Reflex won't make any difference because we just want the buffs to stay on. We just want the shield to stay on. But Wixwell and Titus are the only 2 champions in this comp that will make use of Merciless and Reflex. Let me speed it up a little bit here till we see some good hits from Titus. And as you can see, when Merciless or Reflex procs, that will increase our damage that we're doing here. As you can see, so we're up to, as you can see for example here, the shield starting to get beefier and beefier on everyone. We just did a 3.5 million hit. The damage is ramping up nicely here. Okay, so and I want to keep myself off the screen so you can see how big the shield is growing on everyone, especially on Titus. The bigger the shield on Titus, the more damage that he's going to do basically. And of course the ally attacks are helping us just do a little bit more damage. Wixwell, if you manage to give him some accuracy within his build, 6 million hit, we're in turn 15. Wixwell, as I was saying, if you manage to give him some accuracy, he will put that attack down on the boss, allowing you to, like, basically decreasing the damage that clan boss is hitting you with, allowing you to live longer and longer till you achieve that 1 key. I wanted to show you something. So while probably it already started happening, if you see here. So the shield is growing, but at a point in time, as you're seeing here, the shield is smaller and smaller on Apothecary because the clan boss is hitting harder. Is this an issue? Partially, but not an issue if you already achieved your 1 key. And we'll do a quick battle just to confirm the consistency here. At a point in time, depending on how tanky your builds are for all of these champions, some of them will start dying and the comp will fall apart, but depending on how tanky they are, you can achieve more and more damage before this happens. I want to show you that though my champions will start dying one by one, you see the numbers that Titus is putting out started to drop a little bit here because my champions started to fall apart, but still will have enough damage in this team to easily achieve 1 key. As you can see here, we are still growing the shield. The shield is very small now on Wixwell, and it's already gone from Apothecary. So Apothecary will die, followed by Wixwell, and then the other ones when their shields expire. But that won't affect us because we already achieved that 1 key. We're hitting for 5 million, 6 million, 3.5 million. A few hits of these and you will easily, comfortably achieve your 1 key. Let me bring myself back on the screen and then we'll continue discussing things here. So as you can see here, let me show you when Apothecary die. So even after some of my champs start to die, as we'll see in a sec here, like Apothecary is gone in this segment, but the rest of the team is still going because of how beefy the shield is. Wixwell, I believe, will die second because as you can see here, yes. So the 3 remaining champions with good shields will continue to survive a little bit, but we already are over 100 million in damage, which is way more than you need for a 1 key on Ultra Nightmare. And of course it also, depending on the speed tune, it should work okay on Nightmare and maybe Brutal as well. I'll show you the builds and we'll talk about everything here. But the main thing, okay, this run is almost over because yes, now he'll get stunned and then he'll lose the shield and we're done. But we're over 100 million damage on the clan boss. Of course, most of the damage is achieved by Wixwell. Now let's go back to the game. Let's do our quick key battle and then confirm the consistency. And then we'll talk about the builds, because there's a specific balance that you need to strike. The longer the quick battle goes, that means that it's consistent. 128 million damage, 41 turns. Of course, the higher level of gear that you have, you can build this team to do 1 billion. You can build this team to do 500 million, 600 million. This is like, this account that I'm giving away, it's been playing for 3 years. The level of gear is good, but it's not crazy high like my main or the other accounts that you see from content creators. So this says that if you're playing actively for long enough and you have the champions, you can make this work. Now let's jump into the builds, because there is a very important factor that basically made me fail to build this team for a few times before I finally made it work. We'll start with Apothecary and we'll go through the others. So the first thing that I needed to do to make this team work comfortably is put 2 of my champions in shield sets. Do you need this? No. If you have high enough stats on the champions, you might need only 1 shield set plus whatever Wixwell is doing. But in my case, to make it work smoothly, I needed 2 champions in shield sets. So this shield is big to start with and then it's easier to make it grow. So that's the first factor here. I already talked about the speed tune. Make sure that nobody is too fast or too slow so that they will fall out of sync. Third factor here is reflex gear on Wixwell. It's not a must if your builds are tanky enough, but it will definitely help you do more damage. So reflex set on Wixwell and Merciless, you need only 4 pieces. 6 pieces are fine, whatever you can have on him, but the minimum is 4 pieces. So that you get, let me show it to you here, the chances to decrease random skill cooldown. You cannot put more than 6 pieces on him. You can put up to 8, but 6 is the maximum that will make much of a difference because of the ignore defense, because you don't want him taking extra turns. If he takes extra turns, he will fall out of sync with the team. So 4 pieces is what you need. Merciless, that's it. If you don't have good Merciless gear, you can put him in reflex as well. Don't worry about lethal or anything that helps him do more damage. He will do the damage anyways. The only thing that you need is for him to reset his cooldown so he can repeat that A2 as much as possible. Now let's talk about another factor that can make this team fail or succeed. HP and defense ratio. If you've seen Hell Hades' video showing this budget team, that's what I followed basically to build the team. You will see that he's using HP and defense values a little bit lower than mine. But the main thing here for me is that I had to keep pumping HP and defense till I get to this ratio to make the team work. So if you get everything we talked about so far right, but you don't have enough HP and defense on all of your champions, this comp is not going to work because it won't survive long enough to do the damage. What HP and defense numbers we're talking about? Let's check on Apothecary because he's the weakest on the team, so it was harder for me to build this onto him. First of all, on the two champions in our case here, or one if you're using only one, that's in a shield set, pumping their HP higher and higher will help them put a bigger shield out at the beginning. So it's a double benefit here. But from testing with the numbers, I think that anything below 75k HP and 2.5k defense, or even 3k defense, will mean that this specific champion that got those lower stats is going to die first. So you see here that my apothecary is at 82k HP and 3k defense, and still he's the first to die on the team. Let's say to be safe, you need 80k and 3k defense. But looks like there is a specific ratio that I couldn't figure out, because as I was saying on Hell Hades' video, his team is doing better and his HP defense is lower than mine. His team survived longer than mine. Now let's check Wixwell. So Wixwell, I couldn't pump his HP higher than 70k, but I gave him 4k defense. And that's also okay. The two most difficult champions for you to build will be Wixwell and Titus, because they require specific gear sets. If you've been playing for a while, you will have a couple of good shield sets to put on Apothecary. Like for example, why was it easy to pump Apothecary's HP and defense this high? Because we only need him to be this fast. He doesn't need any additional factor. Same for the other two buff extenders. So that's why I could give him such stats. Same for Lanakis, for example, in a shield set, because she's even slower, I could give her more HP up to 85k and 2.6k defense. But you see here, so that's the ratio I'm talking about. Lanakis got more HP and lower defense, and she's surviving way longer than Apothecary. Also, if we check Mikagi here, we see that Mikagi, because she's a mythical, she got already like higher stats. I could pump her to 96k HP and 4k defense, and of course that's why she's surviving more. So what we can get from this is that beyond 2.5k, because I'll put Lanakis as our example here, just give them 2.5k defense and make everyone as high above 80k HP as possible. How do you want to build Titus? That's the last tip that I'm going to tell you about this comp. From watching Kryzen and other Krakens playing this composition, looks like there is something in Titus' skills code, because if we see here, it says that it's scaling from defense and HP. If we think by logic, this means the higher of both stats that he has means that he can do more damage, but that's not the case. What those Krakens and testers found out that the lower HP that Titus has, the more damage that he'll do, especially if he got more defense. And you need to give Titus as much damage as you can give him, because if the team survives long enough, but Titus is not hitting for those big numbers, you still won't achieve the desired results from this composition. So the two stats, well, the three stats that you want on Titus. The speed, to get into speed tune with the team, he's definitely the slowest on the team. And then don't worry about crit rate. You want to give him as much defense and crit damage as you can. Because I'm barely doing 120 millions, I think that if you drop his defense lower than 4.5k defense and his crit damage lower than 250%, you won't achieve the 1 key on Ultra Nightmare. If your gear got too much HP on them, if he's 50k HP, he's going to do less damage. So try to keep his HP as low as possible. Get to 5k defense and 300% crit damage if you can. That will give you the results that you need from this. And of course for masteries, I gave him more crit damage as tier 6 mastery, though the team has been shown in several videos before from other content creators. I noticed that nobody mentioned the tips that I told you in this video. That's why I wanted to walk you through them, because without these tips I struggled. I spent gems, energy, silver and lots of resources just to make the team work, so I wanted to share those tips with you. Now let's go to the giveaway question. So this question, whoever answers it first will get 5 points. Some of you are already 40 points towards winning the account, if not 50, I lost count now. And today's question is going to be a simple one. I was trying to find harder questions, but almost any question can be answered by Google or ChatGPT today. So my question is very simple. What movie classic starring Humphrey Bogart was around a love story during World War II? Very simple. Just answer and get your 5 points. As always, thank you for stopping by today. I'll see you next time.